Hi, Country.
Hi, Swapnil, and I think hello everyone on LinkedIn. We are doing this live to talk about three bills and one mission. So, with me today, we have Swapnil Tripathi, who is a lead at Charkha, which is a arm of the constitutional law at Vidi Legal Policy. So, thank you so much, Swapnil, for joining us. And with that, I also welcome everyone because you all are joining us at this touted historic moment. Just for context, India's parliament is starting with a special session to debate three bills that could reshape world's largest democracy, right? And in ways which we haven't seen since the emergency era. And Swapnil will give you more details on why the emergency era is being mentioned. But today, I just want to first lay out the big picture, right? The parliament unanimously passed the Nari Shakti Adhiniyam, the Women's Reservation Bill, back in 2023, which promised to reserve one third of the seats in the Lok Sabha and state assemblies for women. It was also hailed as a landmark, but there was a catch that was baked into the law. It couldn't be implemented until after a fresh census and a delimitation exercise. Now the parliament is trying to operationalize that promise, but in doing so, it is also um, it is called for a special session to delink it from the promised delimitation and the census. With that, we are today starting with why this bill first. We have to get into the history of why did it take 30 years, and I just wanted to briefly touch upon where it started and what happened. Right, so in 1996 is when Pramila Nandvate of Janata Dal, tabled this bill in the parliament, where Sharad Yadav, who was one of the sitting MPs, had said that they did not want to see Parkati and Balkati MPs in the parliament. And there were a lot of members who also said that women should go back home and make rotis. This is the misogyny that we are speaking of in 1996, right? What happened, however, after was that every time the bill was tabled, the parliament, like in the house, would be in utter shambles. There will be a lot of ruckus. People will flow into the well. There will be a lot of protest, or the house would would just dissolve itself. Having said that, again in 1998, an AIADMK tabled this, and an RJD leader, which is Surendra Kumarji, who tore the bill on the floor of the parliament. Now, in 2010, when UPA had the numbers, Lalu Prasad Yadav said the bill would pass over my dead body. And this is the moment that Manmohan Singh government never tabled it, even in the Lok Sabha, um, where it eventually lapsed. Now, in 2023, all parties, literally, except for an exception of AIMIM and sitting member of the party, Asaduddin Owaisi, did not vote in the favor, but everyone except for that voted in support of the bill. But the caveat was that there was an absence of the quota for OBC women and Muslim women, right? This was raised in the parliament. Despite that, it was passed. No one wondered, but in 2023, or a lot of people wondered that why did opposition, oppose it to a level where they could have stopped the bill, because it could not have happened. The parliament has fundamentally changed since then. This is 2023. There was an absolute majority of this current government. So this could not have been stopped back then. Now, when we are standing at this point again, there was a question that Najma Heptullah had raised in 1996, which was a very practical question regarding the seats that would be reserved. And it was proposed to be a lottery system, which would technically alienate sitting male MPs. But the same argument was used in 2023 to justify linking reservation to delimitation. But as analysts have pointed out, reservations for Jat in 2016, Marathas in 2018, and economically weaker section in 2019 were all done without that fresh count. So linking women's reservation to delimitation was never maybe a constitutional necessity, and that's something to be probed today. And with that, I do invite Swapnil to speak about the 2023 Act that was amended, that amended the Article 334A to link implementation to census and delimitation. But these three new bills now are trying to delink it from the next census and give the power to the government to decide which data is to be used instead. Walk us through what exactly is being changed and where is this constitutionally clean or technically messy.
Yeah, so I think I'll first talk about what is it that the women's reservation was trying to do, because I don't think the issue is any more about women's reservation. In fact, if we have to look at the substance of the changes that have been brought about, women's reservation is effectively not even one third of what's being done here. Women's reservation is the touted reason to do it. So what the women's reservation the bill effectively did in 2023 is it added a provision that states the seats in the Lok Sabha, which is the House of People, and seats in the state legislative assemblies, one third of those would be reserved for women particularly. However, when this would come into the picture is when a census is conducted post the passing of this bill, which effectively meant a 2026 or a 2027 census, because that's when the census was touted to happen. So that was a clear condition that was in place for this implementation to kick in, which effectively meant that you will have a delimitation commission, you will conduct census, and then you will redistribute seats. However, the bill did not answer a clear question that will we do that to the existing seats? So we have roughly about like 550 around seats in the Lok Sabha and in the state legislative respectively. Will the existing of those seats get one third of those gets attributed and reserved for women? If that was the route they went for, what happens to the one third male MPs who will lose that seat? That was a big concern to be kept in mind because the bill doesn't talk about anything on that front. But like I said, it required two things. One, a census, and then second, a delimitation based on that census is when this would happen. So updated population figures is what it provided. That's what the bill tried to do. However, the amendments that have been moved are doing something more than that bill is provided. So if I could talk you through the changes that the amendment is doing, is the amendment is not going through the route of retaining the number of Lok Sabha seats and delimiting one third seats from there. It's increasing the seats of the Lok Sabha. So we are going to roughly about 850 seats in the Lok Sabha, which prima facie, if you think of it, a claim can be made that more seats means that one MP is representing lesser number of people. So the representation becomes fairly accurate, fairly much more represented in a truer sense. But it raises other questions. Like, for instance, if you have more MPs in the parliament, how do you allocate time? Can there be apportionment concerns? Can there be concerns of running that parliament? These are questions that should be debated, and government should explain why is it going ahead with the decision of increasing more seats, which the bills do not explain. No justification is given why they've increased the seats. There can be political justifications that, of course, you can come in, but on the legal front, no justifications are provided. Second, no justification is provided on the number that they've come at. On what basis are you increasing the seats to 850? Could have been 900, could have been 950, could have been 700. In fact, there was a study that said if we have to maintain a much cleaner ratio of representatives to citizens, we should have over 1,000 seats in parliament, given the size of the country. But how have they come out at this number of 850 is something that's not clarified. So that's point number one to be kept in mind. But there is another change that's happening, is that if we look at how our constitutional provisions stand currently, in 1950, when our constitution was adopted, we freeze. Yeah, the allocation of seats in the Lok Sabha to states, how was that supposed to work is every state was to get a certain number of seats, so much so that it's equivalent to their population ratio. So for instance, if there is a bigger state in India, like Uttar Pradesh, it has a bigger population. Let's say their population is 1,000 people. You have another state of India that is relatively smaller size. Let's say Tamil Nadu. It has 30 people. It has 300 people. So the ratio that the two is being maintained is a ratio of 3:10. So the idea was we will allocate seats to you in accordance with this ratio across states. So that that ratio should be fair, so that each state with more population gets a commensurate number of seats. This was what the constitution clearly intends. How this works out is every time we will conduct a new census, the moment a new census is conducted, we will conduct a fresh delimitation exercise to see whether the numbers are still holding true or not. It's possible after a new census there is demographic changes. So the constitution originally envisaged that you do another readjustment exercise after every census. That's what Article 82 very clearly says. However, in 1976, there were certain changes made to this policy. It was arguably realized that, and that's what the debates of the parliament highlight as well, that there were some states